Saving your first $10,000 might sound like a lot, but once you understand how to break it down monthly, it actually becomes a lot more doable than people think. So in this video, I'm going to walk through exactly how I'd approach saving my first $10,000 in 12 months or less. Let's get right into it. Part one, why $10,000? Is it a magic number? Is it a number you reach and then you're set for life? No, I don't think so. I will say it's as close as a magic number as a number would get. Um, More specifically, $10,000 is plenty for 99% of emergency funds. Your tire goes out in your car, you have engine problems in your car, may cost a couple $1,000s. I think $10,000 is just that perfect middle ground where it will act as an emergency fund. It'll cover an emergency fund. It gives you that financial breathing room, and it just gives you that confidence boost where, hey, I have this money set aside, maybe in a high yield savings account or just in your bank's savings account. And with this money, you can start investing. You can start paying off debt. It pretty much just gives you that buffer where, hey, if I lose my job, God forbid, you lose your job, you have $10,000 to fall back on, depending on your monthly expenses. It could cover you for the next couple months while you look for that new job or while you pay for that hospital bill or that car repair, et cetera, et cetera. This is honestly the point where you start to feel in control of your money, and it's only up from here if we keep it going. Part two, I wanted to really break it down. Like I said, $10,000 may sound like a lot to some people, but if you break it down on a monthly basis, weekly basis, if need be, it really makes the number not sound as scary. So, to make it feel a little bit more achievable, we can break it down by months or weeks. Let's say $10,000, you want to reach that within a year. Very doable if you stick to your costs, you stick to your expenses, and you just pretty much try to save more than you send out. So not a lot of DoorDash for the next year, guys. So, but 10K, if you break that down, in 12 months, is around $833 a month, which doesn't sound too bad. Granted, maybe you're not able to save $833 a month. Maybe it'll take you a little more than a year, or, you're able to save even more than $833 a month. You can get it done in less than a year. So, we're just sticking with 12 months. Like I said, $833 a month. You can, you may have to be extra frugal for the next 12 months to get to that initial 10K. And then, you can loosen the reins a little bit. You can spend a little bit more money, but the whole goal is to get to that first 10K to really give you that breathing room, that financial peace. Or if you want to break it down weekly, it's $166 a week. And when you break it down, it stops feeling so overwhelming. You don't look at $10,000 and you're like, oh my God, that 5-digit number. You look at it as $166 a week, whether that's not going as crazy at the grocery store, or maybe not going out for drinks two weekends in a month, or not door dashing or not going out to eat a couple times a week or a month, and really just putting that money aside to reach that 10K goal. Part three, you have to fix your spending. If you don't fix your spending, it's not going to work. You're never going to reach it. You're going to overspend. You're not going to be able to put that money to the side to reach that ultimate goal of $10,000. So, I need you to track your spending, what comes in on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, and what goes out on a monthly basis. Track that spending. Are you buying a lot of food? Are you going out to eat? Are you going to the bars? Are you going to hockey games? I don't know, whatever the case is. You need to cut that obvious waste. Now, obviously, we have to eat. We need a place to sleep, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, to DoorDash lunch a couple times a week instead of making yourself lunch at home, or eating leftovers from the previous night's dinner. Cutting that obvious waste will be able to free up some extra monthly reserves of cash, and that will only help you get to that 10K faster. And this isn't about being extreme. I'm not saying don't ever go out to eat again. Don't buy the organic food at the grocery store, or don't go to those events. Don't go to those sporting events, like hobbies, whatnot. Don't quit your hobbies. This is ultimately just being, if needed, being a little more frugal or extreme for these next 12 months or however long it takes you to reach that 10K goal. And then you can kind of, lighten down on yourself. Maybe you'll start going out to eat once a week or once every 2 weeks, or, instead of going to a sporting event every weekend or doing your hobby every weekend, every other week, or maybe three times a month. So three weeks out of the 4 typical weeks a month. It's ultimately just, like I said, getting you to that 10K goal where the financial stress kind of simmers down a little bit. You're able to have that emergency fund in case of, like I said, God forbid, losing a job, car issues, medical issues, et cetera, et cetera. Step here, step two, increasing your income. If your job offers overtime, consider working a couple extra hours a week or a couple extra hours a month, however your company does it, to earn that extra money to put directly towards that 10K. Side incomes, if you have side jobs, or if you can pick up side gigs over the weekend, or if you want to take up a second job over the weekend. Like I said, this doesn't have to be a permanent thing. It could just be a temporary thing to reach that 10K goal. If you want to hit that 10K goal and you're like, hey, I keep this other job for additional income, by all means, keep it. But I'm just saying this isn't going to be, or this doesn't need to be a permanent thing. It just needs to, got to tough it out a little bit to reach that 10K. And then raises, I know the economy's a little rough right now. Jobs are a little stingy with some money, sometimes. But I mean, if you're doing a good job at your work and you haven't really asked for raises lately, you could passively bring it up to your boss, or ask around and see, hey, are new opportunities coming up? Can I take on additional work for some additional money? And possibly job hopping. Like I said, the economy or the job market's not the greatest right now, but there are jobs out there. There are jobs hiring. So definitely keep those in mind. And as always, cutting does help. Cutting the expenses, but I say the quickest way to financial freedom is just earning more, especially from a typical, corporate 9 to 5 job, or just a normal job that you clock in and clock out. Earning more speeds everything up in the long run. We're just being realistic, being honest here. Step three, or part five, I guess in this case, automate your savings. If you have a bad habit of, once your money hits your bank account, you see that money, you think, hey, this is spending money. This is money I can go out for drinks, or I can go order DoorDash, or I can go out to eat. I'd say set up a automation where it's automatic transfers of that, what was it, $833 a month to a savings account where you're not really seeing it on a day-to-day basis, where you're not exposed to the money, where you don't have that urge to use the money because it's in your bank account. And overall, with that automatic transfers and the automation set up, it keeps you accountable, it keeps you consistent. Weekly basis, monthly basis, you're going to see that money get taken out of your checkings account, or when that check hits, and it's going to go into that high yield savings account, or it's going to go into that savings account in your bank where really not to touch that money. That money is for that sole goal of reaching that 10K as fast as possible. Part six, mindset shift. At the end of the day, guys, if this was as easy as, it comes off in this video, I think everybody would do it. Everybody would hit millionaire status when it comes to retirement, because, they're all responsible and consistent, and, they'll invest money, throughout the years. And then eventually when it gets to retirement age, they'll be ready for a successful retirement. But I mean, it's harder than it sounds to some people. To other people, it's like, hey, I'll put money away, and, I don't need to spend this money, whatever. It's more money I can put towards investments. So I would say, focus on consistency instead of perfection. Hey, if 1 month, you're just really burnt out at work and you just really don't feel like cooking and you got to feed your family. Whatever, maybe you guys go out to eat, maybe you guys go get a quick bite, or there's a once in a lifetime opportunity event coming to somewhere local near you and you really need to go, you really want to go. You've been a fan since you were a kid. I guess you can bend a little bit, but as long as after that you realize like, hey, I kind of I slacked on this month or I slacked on this week. I'm going to double down the next month, or I'm going to double down next week, or I'm going to make sure that I reach the goal even faster. So ultimately, like consistency over perfection, I think any day of the week, but just make sure that you remind yourself, hey, 10K is the goal, 10K is the goal. Once I hit this, I'll have a lot more freedom when it comes to my finances, especially with the emergency fund. And don't wait. I don't see some people I think have a misunderstanding where, oh, I'm only in my 20s, I have all the time to wait. I have all the time to wait until I'm in my 30s or until I'm in my 40s, I'm making a lot more money where I can put that money away. Don't wait, guys. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. So if you think of it like that, the earlier you start, the better off you'll be, the more time your money will have to compound over the years, and you'll just be in a way better position compared to if you started later on in life. Keep that in mind. I say that will be probably easily one of my most important suggestions or my piece of advice. As always, I'm not a financial advisor, not a financial coach. This is just what I've experienced in my life, what I've gone through, what I've learned, and what I hope to teach the younger generations or teach people around my age, older people, whatever the case is, whoever runs along and finds this channel, I suppose. So in closing, guys, saving your first $10,000 isn't about doing anything crazy or, going balls to the wall for the rest of your life. I hope not, at least. I hope it doesn't take your whole life to reach 10K. But it's really just about being consistent for a long enough period of time when you will slowly see that money build up to that 10K. Once you hit that, like I said, just so much stress just gets lifted off your shoulders, guys. It's unreal. Like I don't want to say it's the magic number, you hit this number and you'll be set for the rest of your life. But $10,000 is a very comfy number to hit to realize, hey, I'm doing really well, or I'm doing a lot better than I used to. I have this financial stress lifted off my shoulders. I have money stowed away in case of an emergency that comes up. So it's just a really solid number, and I encourage everyone, especially all my viewers, to strive for that goal. Now, obviously, if you have more than that, kudos to you. Good job to you. That's the goal. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't slow down. Keep going. Keep grinding. I don't think your future self will hate you for having more money when it's time to retire and you don't want to work anymore. So as always, guys, I'm wrapping it up here. This is the lunch table, and as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, watching. As always, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and till next time.